The new series has arrived and the name is What If Naruto Was in Black Clover? So let's start the series. The sky was bleeding. No, that wasn't right either. The sky was opening. A crack of violet light split the clouds, and from that crack poured something that felt wrong in every possible way. It wasn't chakra. It wasn't anything Naruto had ever felt in his 20-odd years of fighting things that should have killed him 100 times over. It tasted like static electricity and burned like frost. It made the hairs on his arms stand up and his stomach drop like he'd just fallen off a cliff. What the hell, he started. Then the crack widened. And Naruto didn't have time to finish his sentence because the world turned inside out. He landed hard on his back, the wind knocked out of his lungs, his head swimming with disorientation. For a long moment, all he could do was stare upward at a sky that was the wrong color. Not the soft blue of the land of rivers. Not the gray of a storm brewing. This sky was a deep, rich azure, the kind of blue you only saw in paintings, and it had two suns. Two. Small ones, distant ones, but definitely two distinct sources of light hanging in the heavens like someone had copy-pasted the original and forgotten to delete the first. Okay, Naruto said to no one, his voice raspy. That's new. He pushed himself up onto his elbows and immediately regretted it. His ribs ached. His head throbbed. His right arm felt like it had been twisted backward and then forward again, which, given how he'd fallen, might actually have happened. He checked his chakra networks instinctively, a habit drilled into him by years of combat, and found them intact but sluggish, like water moving through frozen pipes. Around him, the landscape was wrong. Not ugly or hostile, just wrong. He'd landed in a field of tall grass that swayed in a breeze he couldn't feel, and beyond that field stretched a forest of trees with leaves that shimmered silver instead of green. The ground beneath him was soft, almost spongy, and it gave off a faint warmth like a sleeping animal's back. Naruto sat up fully and took a slow breath. Kurama, he said quietly. No response. Kurama, come on, this isn't funny. Still nothing. The space inside him where the Nine-Tails consciousness usually rested felt empty. Not gone, he could still feel that massive reservoir of chakra coiled deep in his gut, warm and waiting, but the fox himself was silent. Asleep, maybe. Or blocked. Or something worse. Naruto's jaw tightened. Great. Just great. He stood up, dusted off his orange jacket, which had somehow survived the trip mostly intact, though there was a new tear along the left sleeve, and looked around for any sign of civilization. Mountains in the distance. A river to his left, glittering under the twin suns. And smoke. Faint, thin columns of smoke rising from somewhere beyond the silver forest, the kind of smoke that came from chimneys and cookfires. People. Good. People meant answers. Naruto started walking. The village, when he reached it, was like nothing he'd ever seen. It wasn't the buildings that threw him, those were normal enough, stone and wood and thatch, the kind of rustic architecture you'd find in any small town in the land of fire. It was the people. More specifically, it was what the people were doing. A woman in an apron levitated a bucket of water across a courtyard without touching it. A child no older than 8 made a flower bloom in his palm, its petals unfolding like time-lapse photography. A blacksmith hammered a horseshoe while flames danced around his forearms, shaping the metal without ever needing to heat it in a forge. Magic. Naruto had seen a lot of strange things in his life. He'd fought a man who could turn his body into paper. He'd watched his best friend tear holes in the fabric of reality. He'd died and come back to life and talked to dead people and made peace with a demon who'd lived inside him since the day he was born. But this? People just casually using magic like it was nothing, like it was breathing or blinking? That was new. He walked down the main street, trying not to stare, and immediately drew attention. Not because of his clothes, though the bright orange jacket did stand out against the earth tones everyone else seemed to favor. No, it was something else. Something in the way people looked at him and then looked away, frowning, their eyes sliding over him like he was a puzzle piece that didn't fit. Naruto knew that look. He'd seen it his whole childhood. It was the look people gave you when they sensed something off about you, something they couldn't quite name but didn't like. Excuse me, he said to a man who was walking past with a basket of bread. Can you tell me where I am? The man stopped. He was middle-aged, with a weathered face and calloused hands, and he studied Naruto for a long moment with an expression that was part confusion and part suspicion. You're in Hage, he said slowly. Outer reaches of the Clover Kingdom. Where are you from, son? I can't feel any mana coming off you at all. Mana. That was a new word. Naruto filed it away. I'm from far away, he said carefully. I think I got lost. The man's frown deepened. Lost? Right. He shifted his basket to his other arm and took a half step back, and Naruto noticed the way his fingers twitched, like he was ready to do something with that magic Naruto had seen earlier. Look, stranger, I don't know what your deal is, but you need to move along. People here don't take kindly to whatever you are. Naruto wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that he wasn't a threat, that he was just trying to figure out what had happened and how to get home, that he'd saved the world more times than he could count and probably deserved a little more courtesy than this. But he'd learned a long time ago that words didn't always work. Sometimes people needed to see for themselves. So he just nodded, forced a smile, and kept walking. Behind him, he heard the man mutter something to a neighbor. The word mana came up again. Also demon and cursed. Naruto's smile faded. Yeah. He knew that feeling too. He found a spot on the edge of town, a fallen log near a stream where the silver-leaf trees gave way to normal ones, and he sat down to think. The twin suns were beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that reminded him of home despite everything else being wrong. A good sign, maybe. Or just a coincidence. Okay, he said out loud, because talking to himself helped him focus. You got thrown through a hole in the sky. You landed in a world where people can do magic. They keep talking about something called mana, and they can't sense anything from you. Kurama's not talking. Your chakra's working, but it feels weird. He ticked off the problems on his fingers. Step 1, figure out where you are and how to get back. Step 2, find out what that hole in the sky was and who made it. Step 3, don't die. Simple. Straightforward. The kind of plan Naruto could get behind. He leaned back against the log and closed his eyes, reaching inward to his chakra again. This time, he felt something different. A resonance, almost. Like his chakra was vibrating at a frequency that didn't quite match the world around it, creating a kind of static interference. It wasn't painful, exactly, but it was uncomfortable, like wearing shoes that were half a size too small. Then he heard footsteps. Multiple sets. Purposeful. Moving toward him with the kind of coordinated rhythm that spoke of training. Naruto's eyes snapped open, and he was on his feet in an instant, his body dropping into a loose fighting stance. 3 figures emerged from the trees. The one in front was a young man about his age, with messy black hair and a dark robe that billowed around him like it had a mind of its own. He had a sword at his hip, not a katana, something broader and heavier, and his eyes were sharp and calculating as they locked onto Naruto. The second figure was a girl with silver hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing what looked like a modified military uniform. Her hand rested on a grimoire at her belt, and her expression was pure ice. The third was a boy. No, a young man younger than Naruto, probably 17 or 18, but built like he'd been lifting boulders since birth. He was short, shockingly short, with wild ash blonde hair and eyes that burned with an intensity Naruto recognized immediately. This was someone who'd been told he couldn't do something 1,000 times and had kept trying anyway. Naruto liked him instantly. You're the one with no mana, the black-haired man said. His voice was deep, gravelly, and carried the weight of someone who didn't waste words. He pulled a cigarette from somewhere inside his robe and lit it with a flick of his thumb, no match, just a spark of something that looked like lightning. The villagers are talking about you. Said you fell out of the sky like a rock. Something like that, Naruto said carefully. Who are you? The man took a long drag from his cigarette and exhaled smoke through his nose. Captain Yami Sukahiro. Black Bulls. And you're coming with me. It wasn't a request. The Black Bulls' headquarters was a mess. That was Naruto's first thought as he stepped through the door, or rather, as the door was thrown open by the silver-haired girl, Noelle, who seemed to be perpetually annoyed about something. The building itself was impressive, a massive stone structure that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd never quite figured out what architecture meant, but the inside was chaos. Papers everywhere. Books stacked in precarious towers. A bathtub in the middle of the common room, for some reason. And people. Lots of people, all of them staring at Naruto with varying degrees of curiosity, suspicion, and outright confusion. So this is the guy, said a woman with green hair and a lazy smile. She was sprawled across a couch, flipping through a magazine like she didn't have a care in the world. He really doesn't have any mana? That's wild. Quiet, Vanessa, Yami said. He gestured to a chair, the only clean one in the room, Naruto noticed, and sat down heavily on a crate that had probably once held something explosive. Sit. We need to talk. Naruto sat. He'd been in worse situations. He'd been interrogated by people scarier than this guy, fought enemies more powerful, faced down gods and demons and angry villagers with pitchforks. But there was something about Yami's presence that made him want to be careful. Not afraid, Naruto didn't scare easily, but careful. This was a man who'd seen things. Start talking, Yami said. Where are you from? How did you get here? And why can't anyone sense any mana from you? Naruto took a breath. He'd been thinking about this answer since he'd first heard the word mana, and he still wasn't sure how much to reveal. But lying had never been his strong suit, and something told him Yami would see through a lie in about half a second. I'm from a place called the Land of Fire, he said. I don't know how I got here. There was a fight, a crack in the sky, and then I woke up in that field. As for mana. He spread his hands. I don't have any. Where I'm from, we don't use mana. We use chakra. Chakra, Noelle repeated, her brow furrowing. What's chakra? Naruto thought about how to explain it. It's energy. Life energy, kind of. It flows through everyone in my world, and we learn to shape it, mold it, use it for techniques. It's not magic. At least, I don't think it is. But it does a lot of the same things. Vanessa sat up, suddenly interested. Can you show us? Naruto hesitated. Showing off his abilities in an unfamiliar place, surrounded by people he didn't know, seemed like a bad idea. But he also needed them to trust him, and trust required honesty. So he stood up, walked to the center of the room, and held out his right hand. Chakra gathered in his palm. It felt strange, sluggish, resistant, like trying to run through deep water, but it came. A small sphere of rotating energy formed above his hand, blue and humming and alive. The Rasengan. The technique his father had created, the technique that had become Naruto's signature. The room went silent. That's... Noelle's eyes widened. That's not magic. There's no mana in that at all. But it's doing something. How? Naruto dismissed the Rasengan with a flick of his wrist. Practice, he said. A lot of practice. Yami was staring at him with an expression Naruto couldn't quite read. Interest, maybe. Or hunger. Like he'd just found a new puzzle to solve. You said you were in a fight before you got here, he said. How strong are you? Naruto met his gaze. Strong enough. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Yami grinned a sharp, dangerous grin that reminded Naruto of Kakashi when he was about to suggest something stupid. Alright, he said. Let's find out. The training ground behind the Black Bull's headquarters was a scarred, pockmarked stretch of earth that had clearly seen a lot of action. Naruto stood at one end, cracking his neck and rolling his shoulders. Across from him, Yami had drawn his sword, a massive curved blade that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and was twirling it lazily like it weighed nothing. Rules are simple, Yami said around his cigarette. Hit me if you can. Don't die. That's not a very good rule, Naruto said. I'm not a very good captain. Yami moved. Naruto had fought fast opponents before. He'd fought people who could teleport, people who could move faster than the eye could track, people who could stop time itself. But Yami's speed was different. It wasn't about raw velocity, it was about presence. One moment he was 30 feet away, the next he was right in front of Naruto, his sword arcing down in a slash that would have cleaved a normal man in half. Naruto wasn't a normal man. He dropped into a crouch, the blade whistling over his head, and pivoted on his left foot to drive an elbow into Yami's ribs. Yami blocked with his forearm, and Naruto felt the impact shudder up his arm like he'd hit a brick wall. This guy was strong. Really strong. Not bad, Yami said. But you're holding back. Naruto's eyes narrowed. You haven't given me a reason not to. Yami's grin widened. He stepped back, sheathed his sword in one smooth motion, and held up his hands. Fair enough. Let's try something else. No weapons. Just you and me and whatever that chakra stuff is. Naruto nodded. This was more his speed. He settled into a familiar stance, feet shoulder-width apart, hands loose at his sides. His chakra was still sluggish, still resistant, but it was there. He could work with it. Yami came at him again, faster this time, and Naruto met him head-on. They exchanged blows, punches, kicks, blocks, counters, and Naruto quickly realized that Yami was one of the best hand-to-hand fighters he'd ever faced. The man moved like water, flowing around attacks and redirecting force with casual ease. Every time Naruto thought he had an opening, Yami was already gone, already repositioning, already setting up his next strike. But Naruto had spent his whole life fighting people who were stronger, faster, more skilled. He'd learned to adapt. He feinted left, drew Yami's guard, and dropped into a low sweep that caught the captain behind the knee. Yami stumbled, just for a second, just a fraction of a second, and Naruto was on him, driving a palm strike into his chest that sent him skidding backward across the dirt. Yami caught himself, planted his feet, and laughed. A real laugh, deep and genuine, the kind of laugh that came from someone who was genuinely having fun. All right, he said, brushing dirt off his robe. I'll admit it. You've got something. But you're still not going all out. I can tell. Naruto didn't deny it. He hadn't even tapped into Kurama's chakra yet, and he'd been careful to keep his shadow clones in reserve. Not because he didn't trust Yami, strangely, he did trust him, at least a little, but because he didn't know how this world would react to his full power. Caution was a new thing for Naruto, but he was trying. Let's call it a draw, Naruto said. Yami snorted. Draw. Right. He pulled out another cigarette, lit it, and took a long drag. You're weird, kid. No mana, some kind of energy I've never seen before, and you fight like someone who's been in real wars. Real ones, not the skirmishes most mages get into. Naruto didn't answer. Yami studied him for a moment, then shrugged. Fine. Keep your secrets. But you're staying here for now. The Magic Knights need to know about you, and frankly, I don't trust you wandering around on your own. No mana means no protection against a lot of things in this world. You'd get eaten by a mana beast inside a week. What's a mana beast? Naruto asked. Yami's expression darkened. Something you don't want to meet without backup. Come on. I'll introduce you to the rest of the squad. Try not to break anything. The rest of the squad, as it turned out, was a collection of misfits that would have made even Kakashi raise an eyebrow. There was Luck, a blonde man with a manic grin and an obsession with fighting. There was Magna, a hothead with a baseball bat that channeled fire magic. There was Charmy, a tiny girl who seemed to spend all her time eating and who, according to Yami, was one of the most powerful mages in the squad. And there was Gordon, a pale, quiet young man who spoke in a whisper and had a tendency to appear out of nowhere. They were weird. They were chaotic. They were nothing like the disciplined shinobi of the Hidden Leaf. And Naruto felt more at home than he had in years. You really fell out of the sky? Luck asked, bouncing on his heels like an overexcited puppy. That's amazing. Can you do it again? Can you teach me? I don't think it works that way, Naruto said. Boring. Luck pouted, but there was no malice in it. He was just intense. Noelle, who had been watching from the corner with her arms crossed, finally spoke up. Captain, are you sure this is wise? He has no mana. No grimoire. He's not even a mage. Keeping him here could put the whole squad at risk. Yami shrugged. Probably. But I've got a feeling about this one. A feeling, Noelle repeated flatly. Yeah. A feeling. Yami looked at Naruto, and for a moment, his expression softened into something almost fatherly. Kid's got the same look Asta had when I first met him. That I'll prove everyone wrong look. You don't see that every day. Naruto blinked. Asta? Yami's grin returned. You'll meet him soon enough. He's out on a mission right now, but when he gets back. He chuckled. You two are either going to be best friends or try to kill each other. Maybe both. Naruto didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded and let Vanessa drag him over to the couch for what she called a proper welcome. Someone handed him a drink. Someone else started telling a story about a mission gone wrong. Charmy offered him a plate of food that smelled surprisingly good, and Naruto realized he hadn't eaten since before the crack in the sky. He ate. He listened. He laughed when they laughed, even when he didn't fully understand the joke. And for the first time since waking up in this strange world, Naruto let himself relax. Tomorrow, he'd figure out how to get home. Tomorrow, he'd find out what that crack in the sky was and who had caused it. Tomorrow, he'd start searching for answers. But tonight, he was just a stranger in a strange land, surrounded by strange people who had accepted him without question. It wasn't home. But it was a start. The forest was quiet. That was the first thing Asta noticed when he really landed, both feet on solid ground, his sword still humming with the residue of anti-magic. The mission had been a success. Another dungeon cleared, another batch of relics secured, another group of mages who'd looked down on him forced to admit that the boy with no magic could still get the job done. But the forest didn't care about any of that. The forest just stood there, ancient and patient, its silver leaves rustling in a wind that smelled like rain and something else. Something new. Asta wiped sweat from his forehead and sheathed his sword on his back, the massive one, the one that had chosen him when no grimoire would. His muscles ached. His lungs burned. He'd pushed himself hard on this mission, harder than usual, because lately he'd been feeling restless. Like something was missing. Like the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. He didn't know what. He just knew that when he'd seen the smoke rising from the Black Bull's headquarters, not danger smoke, just chimney smoke, the ordinary kind, he'd felt a flicker of something in his chest. Anticipation, maybe. Or hope. Asta. There you are. He turned to see Noelle running toward him, her silver hair streaming behind her, her face flushed with something that wasn't just exertion. Excitement, maybe. Or confusion. It was hard to tell with Noelle, she had about 17 different emotions running through her at any given moment, and she was bad at hiding most of them. What's up? Asta asked, falling into step beside her. Did something happen while I was gone? Noelle's mouth opened and closed a few times, like she was trying to figure out how to explain something that didn't have words. Finally, she just said, there's a new person at the base. The captain found him in Hage. He doesn't have any mana. Asta stopped walking. That's impossible, he said slowly. Everyone has at least a little mana. Even I have some, and I can't use it. That's what I said, Noel agreed. But the captain tested him. Multiple times. He's got nothing. 0 mana. It's like he's a hole in the world where magic should be. Asta's heart was pounding now, a fast, steady rhythm that had nothing to do with the run and everything to do with the word mana. Or rather, the lack of it. For his whole life, he'd been the only one. The one person in the Clover Kingdom who couldn't use magic, who had to fight with muscles and willpower and a sword that didn't care about the rules. He'd made peace with it. He'd turned his weakness into his greatest strength. But he'd never stopped feeling alone. And now there was someone else. What's his name? Asta asked, already walking faster. Naruto, Noel said. Naruto Uzumaki. He's weird, Asta. Really weird. He talks about things I've never heard of, and he has this energy inside him that isn't mana but does things mana can't do. The captain fought him and said he was holding back. Asta grinned. A real grin, the kind that split his face from ear to ear and made his eyes light up. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go meet him. The Black Bull's common room was even more chaotic than usual when Asta burst through the door. Magna and Luck were arguing about something. When were they not arguing? While Charming chased Gordon around the table with a fork, yelling something about sharing is caring. Vanessa was passed out on the couch, an empty wine bottle clutched to her chest. And in the middle of it all, sitting cross-legged on the floor with a plate of food in his lap, was a young man with spiky blonde hair, blue eyes, and 3 whisker-like marks on each cheek. He looked up when Asta entered, and for a moment, their gazes locked. Asta had met a lot of people in his life. He'd met nobles who looked down on him, peasants who feared him, enemies who underestimated him, and allies who believed in him. But he'd never met anyone who looked at him the way this guy did. Not with pity or curiosity or judgment. Just recognition. Like he was looking at a mirror. You must be Asta, the blonde guy said. His voice was easy, casual, the voice of someone who'd learned to be comfortable in his own skin. Yami told me about you. Said we'd either be best friends or try to kill each other. Asta crossed his arms and planted his feet. And which one do you want? The guy Naruto, that was his name, Naruto Uzumaki, grinned. It was a stupid grin, wide and sincere and completely without guile. I'm good with either, honestly. Both sounds fun too. Asta stared at him for a long moment. Then he burst out laughing. I like you already, he said, walking over and dropping onto the floor next to Naruto. So? No mana, huh? Naruto nodded. No mana. Just chakra. Chakra. Asta tested the word on his tongue. What's that? It's like life energy, I guess. Everyone in my world has it. We learn to control it, shape it, use it for techniques. It's not magic, but it can do a lot of the same things. Naruto held up his hand, and Asta watched as a small blue sphere of spinning energy formed above his palm. This is called a Rasengan. My dad invented it. Took me years to learn. Asta leaned closer, fascinated. He couldn't feel any mana coming off the sphere, not a drop, but he could feel something. A pressure, almost. Like the air itself was being compressed and shaped by forces he didn't understand. That's amazing, he said, and he meant it. Can you teach me? Naruto's grin softened into something more thoughtful. Maybe. But first, I need to figure out how to get home. I wasn't supposed to end up here. Something pulled me through a crack in the sky, and I need to find out what. A crack in the sky, Asta repeated. Like a spatial magic portal? Naruto shrugged. I don't know what that is. But it felt wrong. Not like chakra at all. Darker. Colder. Like something was watching me from the other side. The room seemed to grow quieter. Even Magna and Luck had stopped arguing, their attention drawn by the weight in Naruto's voice. Asta felt a chill run down his spine, the kind of chill he usually only got before a big fight. You think someone brought you here on purpose? He asked. Naruto met his eyes. I think it's possible. And I think whoever did it isn't done with me yet. The next few days were a blur of training, exploration, and slowly getting to know the members of the Black Bulls. Naruto threw himself into both with the same relentless energy he'd always had, waking up before dawn to run laps around the headquarters, sparring with anyone who was willing, and asking endless questions about how magic worked in this world. The answers were fascinating. Magic, he learned, was everywhere. It flowed through the air, the ground, the water, the very bones of the planet. Mages drew on this ambient mana and shaped it through their grimoires, magical books that appeared when a person turned 15, containing spells tailored to their specific affinity. Some people had elemental magic, fire, water, wind, earth. Others had more exotic types, spatial, sealing, curse, even time magic. And a rare few, like Captain Yami, had magic that defied easy categorization. What about you? Naruto asked Asta one afternoon, as they sat on the roof of the headquarters watching the twin sun set. What's your magic? Asta was quiet for a moment. Then he reached behind his back and drew his sword, the massive one, the one that looked like it had been forged from darkness itself. I don't have magic, he said. I have anti-magic. This sword, it negates any spell it touches. Cuts through magic like it's nothing. Naruto's eyes widened. That's incredible. It's also dangerous, Asta admitted. The sword has a mind of its own sometimes. And using it puts a lot of strain on my body. But it's all I've got, so I make it work. Naruto nodded slowly. He understood that. He'd spent his whole life making things work with what he had, turning disadvantages into strengths, proving people wrong through sheer stubbornness. Looking at Asta was like looking at a younger version of himself, the version that had existed before Kurama, before the war, before he'd become the hero everyone expected him to be. You remind me of someone, Naruto said. A friend of mine. He was born without any special talent, but he worked harder than anyone I've ever known. He's one of the strongest people in my world now. Asta's eyes lit up. Really? What's his name? Rock Lee. He can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, those are two of the three main types of techniques in my world, but he trained his body until he could fight on par with people who had incredible powers. He's got more guts than anyone. Asta grinned. I like this Rock Lee guy already. You'll have to introduce me someday. Naruto's smile flickered. Someday, he repeated. Yeah. Someday. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars appear one by one. Two suns set, but the night sky looked almost the same as the one Naruto remembered, same constellations, same moon, just one moon, thank goodness, same endless expanse of darkness punctuated by points of light. It was comforting, in a strange way. Like the universe was telling him that no matter how far he traveled, some things stayed the same. Naruto, Asta said finally, do you think you'll go back? Naruto considered the question. He'd been thinking about it constantly, turning it over in his mind like a puzzle he couldn't solve. His friends were back home. His family. His whole life. He couldn't stay here forever, no matter how welcoming the Black Bulls were. But there was also a part of him, a small, selfish part, that wanted to see this through. Wanted to understand this world and its magic, wanted to fight alongside these strange new comrades, wanted to figure out what had pulled him here and why. I don't know, he admitted. But I'm not leaving until I find out who brought me here and why. And if they're a threat to this world. His expression hardened. I'll stop them. That's what I do. Asta nodded, as if that was exactly what he'd expected to hear. Then we'll stop them together, he said. That's what we do. They shook hands, there on the roof under the unfamiliar stars, and Naruto felt something click into place. A bond. A partnership. The beginning of something that would change both of them in ways they couldn't yet imagine. A week passed. Then two. Naruto learned to navigate the Clover Kingdom's complicated social hierarchy, though he didn't understand it and didn't really try. Nobles looked down on commoners, commoners resented nobles, and everyone had an opinion about everyone else's magic. It reminded him uncomfortably of the caste system and the hidden leaf, the way certain families were considered better because of their bloodlines and techniques. But he also learned that the magic knights were different. They were supposed to protect the kingdom regardless of status, and squads like the Black Bulls took in misfits and outcasts that other squads wouldn't touch. It wasn't a perfect system, nothing ever was, but it was something. He trained constantly. His chakra was still sluggish, still resistant, but it was getting better. He'd figured out that the ambient mana in this world was interfering with his chakra flow, like white noise drowning out a signal. The solution wasn't to fight the mana, it was to work around it, to find the gaps and slip through. You're getting faster, Yami observed one morning, watching Naruto run through a series of katas in the training ground. Still not going all out, though. I'm getting there, Naruto said, not breaking his rhythm. Give me time. Yami grunted. Time's something we might not have. I've been hearing rumors. Strange things happening in the Forsaken Realm. People going missing. Mana behaving weirdly. And there's talk of a new devil-worshipping cult that's been gaining followers in the outer reaches. Naruto stopped mid-strike. Devils? Powerful beings from another dimension, Yami explained. They make contracts with mages, grant them incredible power in exchange for, well, usually their souls. Most of them are sealed away, but every few decades, one manages to slip through the cracks. Another dimension. That phrase stuck in Naruto's mind. If devils could cross between dimensions, maybe that was what had happened to him. Maybe he'd been caught in the wake of something much bigger than himself. You think the devil worshippers might be connected to what happened to me? He asked. Yami shrugged. Could be. Or it could be a coincidence. Either way, I want you to be careful. You're an unknown quantity in this world, and unknowns attract attention. Bad attention. Naruto nodded. He'd been careful so far. But careful had never been his strong suit, and he could feel the old restlessness building inside him, the need to act, to fight, to protect. It was who he was. He couldn't change it any more than he could change the color of his eyes. I'll be careful, he said, and even he could hear the lie in his voice. Yami just sighed and lit another cigarette. That night, Naruto couldn't sleep. He lay in the small room the Black Bulls had given him, staring at the ceiling, his mind churning with thoughts he couldn't quiet. Home. His friends. The crack in the sky. The devils Yami had mentioned. The strange resonance he kept feeling whenever he reached for his chakra, like something was calling to him from far away. He sat up, swung his legs over the side of the bed, and pressed his palms together. Chakra flowed through him, warm and familiar, and he reached deeper, past the sluggish surface currents to the vast reservoir beneath. Kurama, he thought. Are you there? Silence. But this time, the silence felt different. Not empty, waiting. Like the fox was listening, even if he couldn't respond. I don't know if you can hear me, Naruto thought, but I'm in trouble. I'm in a different world, and I don't know how to get back. And there's something here that feels wrong. Something dark. Something that might be connected to all of this. I need your help. I need your power. But even if you can't give me that right now, I need to know you're still with me. I need to know I'm not alone. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, deep in the core of his being, Naruto felt a flicker of warmth. A pulse of something vast and ancient and fierce. It wasn't words, Kurama still wasn't talking, but it was presence. A reminder that the Nine Tails was still there, still watching, still ready to fight when the time came. Naruto exhaled slowly, and for the first time in weeks, he felt something like peace. Thanks, partner, he whispered. I knew you had my back. He lay back down, closed his eyes, and this time, sleep came easily. The next morning, everything changed. Naruto was eating breakfast with the rest of the squad. Charmy had made something that involved eggs, cheese, and at least 3 types of meat, and it was delicious when a messenger bird flew through the open window and landed on Yami's shoulder. The captain unrolled the small scroll attached to its leg, read it, and went very still. What is it? Noel asked. Yami's expression was unreadable. There's been an attack. A village in the Forsaken Realm, near the border of the Spade Kingdom. The entire population is missing, and witnesses reported seeing something. A figure wrapped in shadows. A devil, maybe. Or something worse. Naruto set down his fork. A devil? Maybe. Yami stood up, his hand moving to his sword. The Magic Knights are mobilizing. Several squads are being sent to investigate. Including us. The room erupted into chaos, people grabbing weapons, shouting questions, scrambling to get ready. But Naruto didn't move. He sat at the table, his breakfast forgotten, his mind racing. A devil. A figure wrapped in shadows. An entire village missing. It might be nothing. It might be unrelated to the crack in the sky and the strange resonance he'd been feeling. But Naruto had learned to trust his instincts, and his instincts were screaming. This was connected. And whatever, had pulled him into this world was making its move. Let's go, he said, standing up. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the chaos like a blade. Everyone stopped and looked at him. If there's a devil involved, I want to see it for myself. Yami studied him for a moment, then nodded. All right. But you follow my orders. This isn't your world, and you don't know what you're dealing with. Naruto nodded. Understood. He followed Yami out the door, Asta and Noel and the rest of the squad falling in behind him. The twin suns were rising, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled, a storm coming in from the east. Naruto smiled. A small, hard smile that didn't reach his eyes. He'd faced gods before. He'd faced demons and monsters and enemies who should have been unbeatable. He'd died and come back and fought for the future of his world. If this world needed a hero, he was ready. If something was hunting him, it was about to learn why you didn't mess with Naruto Uzumaki. Nobody does anything stupid. Yami's voice was flat, final, the kind of tone that didn't leave room for argument. He stood at the front of the squad, his arms crossed, his cigarette burning low in the corner of his mouth. Behind him, the landscape of the Forsaken Realm stretched out in all directions, barren fields, twisted trees, and a sky that seemed permanently overcast, as if the sun itself had given up on this part of the world. Captain, Asta started, we never do anything. Stupid. I know. Yami cut him off. That's the problem. Today, I need you to do something different. I need you to be careful. This isn't a dungeon crawl or a bandit hunt. An entire village is gone. Gone. Not destroyed, there's no rubble, no signs of battle, no bodies. Just empty buildings and a whole lot of nothing. Naruto stood at the back of the group, listening. He'd been in the Black Bulls for almost 3 weeks now, long enough to understand the dynamics of the squad. Yami was the leader, the anchor, the one who kept everyone from flying apart. Asta was the heart, reckless, passionate, always charging ahead. Noelle was the brain, though she'd never admit it. And the others, well, the others were the chaos that somehow, against all odds, made the whole thing work. The village is called Durnhold, Yami continued. Population about 300. Mostly farmers, a few traders, no military presence to speak of. 3 days ago, a merchant caravan passed through and found it empty. No signs of struggle. No blood. Just quiet. Too quiet, Luck said, his eyes gleaming. I like it. Shut up, Luck. Yami's gaze swept over the group. Here's what we know. The Magic Knights sent a scout team ahead of us. They haven't reported back. That was 12 hours ago. The mood shifted. Naruto felt it, a tightening in the air, a sudden alertness that rippled through the squad. 12 hours wasn't that long in the grand scheme of things, but for a scout team that was supposed to check in every 4 hours? It was an eternity. We're going in together, Yami said. No splitting up. No heroics. We find the scouts, we find out what happened to the villagers, and if there's a devil involved, we fall back and call for reinforcements. Understood? A chorus of affirmatives. Naruto nodded along with the rest, but his mind was already racing ahead, thinking about what they might find. An empty village. No bodies. No signs of struggle. It reminded him of something, a technique he'd seen before, a jutsu that could make people disappear without a trace. But that was in his world. This world had different rules. Different powers. Different monsters. The village of Durnhold appeared out of the mist like a ghost. One moment, they were walking through a field of dead grass, the ground crunching under their feet. The next, the mist parted, and there it was, a cluster of stone buildings arranged around a central square, their windows dark, their doors hanging open. No smoke rose from the chimneys. No animals moved in the streets. No voices called out in greeting or alarm. It was the quietest place Naruto had ever been. Spread out, Yami said quietly. But stay within sight of each other. And keep your grimoires ready. Naruto moved to the left, falling into step beside Asta. The smaller boy's hand was already on his sword, his knuckles white, his eyes scanning every shadow. He looked tense, wound tight, like a spring ready to snap. You okay? Naruto asked. Fine, Asta said, but his voice was strained. I've seen a lot of bad things since I became a magic knight. Bandits attacking villages. Monsters eating people. But this? He shook his head. This is different. There's no noise. Even when a village is abandoned, there's noise. Birds. Insects. Wind. But here, it's like the world itself is holding its breath. Naruto understood. He'd felt the same thing when he'd walked through the ruins of the Hidden Leaf after Pain's attack, that sense of wrongness, of life having been forcibly extracted from a place that should have been teeming with it. They reached the central square and stopped. A fountain stood in the middle, dry and cracked, its basin filled with dead leaves. Around it, the buildings loomed like silent sentinels, their empty windows like eyes watching without seeing. Over here, Noelle called out. She was standing in front of the largest building, the village hall, maybe, or a tavern. Her face was pale, her hand pressed to her mouth. Naruto jogged over and looked where she was pointing. The door of the building had been marked. A symbol, carved into the wood with something sharp and deliberate, a circle with jagged lines radiating outward, like a stylized sun or a magical array. It glowed faintly, a sickly purple light that pulsed like a heartbeat. What is that? Naruto asked. A grimoire seal, Yami said, appearing at his shoulder. His voice was grim. Old magic. Forbidden magic. It's used to, well, to do exactly what happened here. To make people disappear, Asta said. Yami nodded. The seal drains mana from everything in its radius. Not just people, the land itself, the buildings, the air. It turns a place into a void. An empty space where nothing can live. Naruto's blood ran cold. A technique that drained life energy from an entire area. He'd seen something like that before. The Predapath, one of the abilities of the Rinnegan, could absorb chakra on a massive scale. But this was different. This was deliberate. Targeted. Someone had done this on purpose, and they'd done it recently. Can you track whoever made it? Naruto asked. Yami's eyes narrowed. Maybe. The seal leaves a residue, a trail of distorted mana. But it's faint, and whoever did this knew what they were doing. They covered their tracks. Not all of them, Naruto said. He closed his eyes and reached out with his senses. Not chakra that was still sluggish, still interfered with by the ambient mana. But something else. Something he'd developed during the war, when he'd needed to find enemies who were hiding their presence. A kind of awareness. A feeling for disturbances in the natural order. And there it was. Faint, almost imperceptible, but there. A thread of wrongness leading away from the village, toward the east, toward the mountains that marked the border of the Spade Kingdom. This way, he said, opening his eyes. I can feel it. Yami stared at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Lead on. They followed the thread for hours. The landscape grew more hostile as they traveled rocky ground, sparse vegetation, and an increasing sense of desolation that had nothing to do with the physical environment. Naruto could feel the wrongness getting stronger, pulsing like a second heartbeat beneath the surface of the world. It made his skin crawl. It made his chakra churn in his gut like an angry animal. What is this place? Noelle whispered, her voice barely audible over the crunch of their footsteps. It feels like we're walking into a grave. The borderlands, Yami said. Neutral territory between the Clover and Spade Kingdoms. No laws, no lords, no protection. It's where outlaws go to hide and where things that shouldn't exist go to fester. Naruto's eyes narrowed. He'd seen places like this before, the Land of Rain, the Hidden Sound, the various no-man's lands that had sprung up during the wars. Places where the weak went to die and the strong went to prey on them. They crested a ridge, and Naruto stopped so abruptly that Asta almost ran into him. Below them, in a shallow valley between two rocky hills, was a structure. Not a village or a fortress, something older, something darker. A temple, maybe, or a tomb. Its walls were black stone, slick with moisture, and its roof was a jagged spire that seemed to pierce the overcast sky. Purple light leaked from its windows, the same sickly glow as the seal in the village. And standing in front of its doors, arranged in a neat row like dolls on a shelf, were the missing scouts. They were alive. Naruto could see their chests rising and falling, could see the terror in their wide, unblinking eyes. But they weren't moving. They weren't speaking. They just stood there, frozen, their grimoires floating in front of them, their pages turning on their own as if something was reading them. They're being used, Asta said, his voice tight with rage. As batteries. Or sacrifices. Or both. Yami's hand moved to his sword. Naruto. Can you feel anyone else inside? Anyone alive? Naruto closed his eyes and reached out again. The wrongness was overwhelming here, a tidal wave of it crashing against his senses. But beneath it, underneath the corruption and the darkness, he felt something else. A presence. Powerful. Ancient. And utterly, completely malevolent. Yes, he said. One person. Maybe more. But whatever's in there, it's not human. Yami's expression didn't change. He'd expected this. All right. Here's the plan. Asta, you're with me. Your anti-magic might be able to cut through whatever's keeping those scouts trapped. Noelle, Vanessa, you're on support, keep us covered and watch for traps. Everyone else, secure the perimeter. Nobody goes in or out. And me? Naruto asked. Yami looked at him. Really looked at him, the way he had during their first fight, assessing, calculating, trying to figure out what Naruto was capable of. You're with us, he said finally. You said you wanted to see the devil for yourself. Well, here's your chance. But if things go bad, if we can't handle it, you run. Got it? You run and you don't look back. Naruto met his gaze. I don't run. Yami's lips twitched. Yeah. I figured. He turned to face the structure, drew his sword, and took a deep breath. All right, everyone. Move out. The doors of the structure were heavy, made of some dark metal that seemed to absorb light and sound. When Asta pushed them open, using his anti-magic to nullify the seals that held them shut, they swung inward with a groan that echoed through the valley like a dying animal's cry. Inside, the air was cold. Not the cold of winter or altitude, the cold of absence. Of something missing. Naruto's breath misted in front of his face as he stepped over the threshold, and he felt his chakra recoil, pulling back from the edges of his body like it was trying to hide. The interior was a single vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadow, its walls covered in carvings that seemed to move when you weren't looking directly at them. In the center of the chamber, on a raised dais of black stone, stood a figure. He was taller than any man Naruto had ever seen, with pale skin that seemed to glow faintly in the purple light. His hair was white, almost translucent, and his eyes were the same sickly purple as the seals they'd seen earlier. He wore robes of black and crimson, embroidered with symbols that made Naruto's head ache if he looked at them too long. And in his hands, he held a grimoire that seemed to be made of shadow itself, its pages turning without any wind to move them. Ah, the figure said, and his voice was like honey and poison mixed together. Visitors. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Yami stepped forward, his sword raised. Who are you? What did you do to the villagers of Durnhold? The figure smiled. It was a terrible smile, full of teeth that were just slightly too sharp. The villagers? They're safe. For now. Their mana was necessary. A fuel for a greater purpose. But they're alive, if you care about such things. Where are they? Asta demanded. In a place between places, the figure said. A pocket dimension I created specifically for them. They'll remain there until I have no further use for them. Which, if all goes according to plan, will be never. He tilted his head, his purple eyes moving from Yami to Asta to Naruto. But you're not here about the villagers, are you? You're here about him. He pointed at Naruto. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. What do you want with me? The figure's smile widened. Everything. He raised his hand, and the purple light in the room intensified, flooding Naruto's vision, filling his ears with a sound like screaming. He tried to move, tried to fight, but his body wouldn't respond. It was like being trapped in amber, frozen in place while the world moved around him. You're interesting, the figure said, walking toward him. So interesting. A being from another world, with power that isn't magic and isn't mana. I've been watching you since the moment you arrived. Did you know that? I felt the tear in the sky. I felt you fall. And I knew, in that moment, that you were the key. Key to what? Naruto gritted out. The figure stopped in front of him, close enough to touch. Up close, his face was wrong, too smooth, too symmetrical, like a mask stretched over something that didn't understand human features. To breaking the seal, he said. To releasing the devils from their prison. To remaking this world in the image of its true masters. He reached out and touched Naruto's cheek, his fingers cold as ice. Your chakra, that's what you call it, isn't it, is compatible. More compatible than any magic I've ever encountered. With your power, I can do what no mage has done in 1,000 years. I can open the gate. Naruto's blood boiled. Not with fear, with rage. He'd been used before. He'd been manipulated and controlled and treated like a tool by people who thought they knew better. And he'd sworn, years ago, that he would never let it happen again. No, he said. The figure blinked. No? No. Naruto's chakra surged, pushing back against the force that held him in place. It was hard, like trying to lift a mountain, but he'd done harder things. He'd moved heaven and earth for his friends. He'd fought gods. He'd refused to stay dead. He could break a little paralysis. The purple light flickered. The figure's eyes widened. And Naruto moved. He brought his hands together in a seal, the ram, the familiar shape that had saved his life 100 times, and shouted, Shadow Clone Jutsu. The room filled with smoke and copies. A dozen Narutos exploded into existence, then 2 dozen, then 50, all of them surrounding the figure, all of them with their fists raised and their teeth bared. What? The figure started. The clones attacked. They didn't hold back. They couldn't afford to. They punched and kicked and grabbed, trying to overwhelm the figure with sheer numbers. For a moment, it worked, the figure stumbled back, his concentration broken, the purple light dimming. Then he laughed. Impressive, he said, and his voice had changed. Deeper. Darker. Like something else was speaking through him. But not impressive enough. He raised his hand again, and this time, the purple light didn't just intensify, it exploded. A shockwave of pure force slammed into the clones, dispersing them like smoke in a hurricane. Naruto was thrown backward, his back hitting the wall with a crack that drove the breath from his lungs. Naruto. Asta's voice, distant and muffled. Naruto pushed himself to his feet, his vision swimming. The figure was still standing in the center of the room, but he wasn't alone anymore. Behind him, the air had split open, a crack, just like the one that had brought Naruto to this world, but smaller, more controlled. And from that crack, something was emerging. A hand. Black as coal, with fingers too long and nails like daggers. Then an arm. Then a shoulder. Then a face, twisted, inhuman, with eyes that burned like dying stars. A devil. You're too late, the figure said, his voice reverent. The gate is already opening. And once it's open, nothing in this world can close it. Naruto looked at the devil. At the crack. At the figure who had orchestrated all of this. And he made a decision. Asta, he said, his voice steady despite the pain. Can your sword cut through that? Asta's eyes followed his gaze. I don't know. But I'm willing to try. Then go. I'll hold him off. Asta hesitated. Naruto. Go! Asta ran. His sword flashed, black and hungry, and he leaped toward the crack, toward the devil that was trying to push its way into the world. The figure screamed and tried to stop him, but Naruto was already moving, already throwing himself between them, already forming another Rasengan in his palm. Not so fast, Naruto said, and he drove the spinning sphere of chakra into the figure's chest. The impact was tremendous. The figure flew backward, crashing into the dais and shattering it into pieces. But even as he fell, he was laughing, a mad, triumphant sound that echoed off the walls. It doesn't matter, he gasped, blood trickling from his mouth. The gate is open. The devils are coming. And when they do, your world and mine will burn together. Naruto didn't answer. He was already turning, already running toward Asta, toward the crack, toward the devil that was halfway through. Behind him, the figure's laughter faded into the darkness. And the battle for the fate of two worlds began. The sky had been red that day. Not the red of sunset or the red of dawn, the red of blood, of fire, of a world tearing itself apart. Naruto had stood on the battlefield alongside his friends, his enemies, his family, and he'd watched as Madara, Uchiha and Obito had tried to trap everyone in an endless dream. The Ten Tails had roared. The Shinobi Alliance had screamed. And Naruto had felt something click into place inside him, all understanding that he wasn't fighting just for himself anymore. He was fighting for everyone who had ever believed in him. I'll never give up, he'd said, and the words had felt like a promise and a prayer all at once. He'd meant them then. He meant them now. The devil's hand closed around Asta's sword. It shouldn't have been possible. Asta's blade was made of anti-magic, the one thing in this world that could cut through any spell, any seal, any barrier. But the devil's hand didn't flinch. Didn't burn. Didn't dissolve. It just held on, fingers wrapping around the blade like it was made of ordinary steel, and pulled. Asta's eyes went wide. What? You think your little sword can hurt me? The devil's voice was like grinding stones, like an avalanche in slow motion. It echoed through the chamber, rattling Naruto's teeth and making the walls tremble. I am not made of magic, boy. I am made of will. Of desire. Of everything dark and hungry in the hearts of men. Your anti-magic is useless against me. Asta gritted his teeth and pulled back, but the devil's grip was too strong. He was being dragged toward the crack, toward the thing that was still pushing its way through, its shoulders now visible, its chest beginning to emerge from the tear in reality. No you don't. Naruto shouted. He was already moving, his feet pounding against the stone floor, his hands already forming the seals. The Rasengan materialized in his palm, not the small, training version he'd shown the Black Bulls, but the real thing. The one he'd used to carve mountains and break through defenses that should have been unbreakable. Rasengan. He slammed the spinning sphere into the devil's arm. The impact was like hitting a mountain. Naruto felt the shockwave travel up his arm, through his shoulder, down his spine. The devil didn't scream, it rumbled, a sound of annoyance rather than pain, and its grip on Asta's sword loosened just enough for the smaller boy to yank it free. Asta stumbled backward, nearly falling, but Naruto caught him by the collar and hauled him upright. You okay? Fine, Asta gasped. That thing, it's not like the devils I've fought before. It's bigger. Stronger. And it's not even fully through yet. Naruto knew. He could feel it, the weight of the devil's presence pressing down on him, making his chakra stutter and stumble. This wasn't like fighting a rogue ninja or even a tailed beast. This was something else entirely. Something that didn't belong in this world or any world. Yami! Naruto shouted over his shoulder. Whatever you're going to do, do it now. The captain was already moving. His sword was drawn, his grimoire floating in front of him, its pages flipping with frantic speed. Dark energy gathered around the blade, not purple like the figure's magic, but black, deep and absolute, the color of a void. Dark cloak dimension slash. Yami roared, and swung. The attack crossed the distance between them in an instant, a crescent of pure darkness that cut through the air like a blade through water. It struck the devil's emerging form and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the devil screamed. Not in pain. In surprise. The darkness had done something that Asta's anti-magic couldn't, it had cut through the devil's presence, severing its connection to the crack, forcing it to pull back. The devil's hand released the edges of the tear, and its body began to retreat, sliding back into whatever dark dimension it had come from. But not all the way. The devil's eyes burning, hateful, ancient, locked onto Naruto's face. This isn't over, it said, its voice fading as the crack began to close. I can feel you, chakra bearer. I can taste your power. And I will have it. One way or another. Then the crack sealed shut, and the devil was gone. The chamber fell silent. Naruto's legs gave out. He didn't mean to fall, his body just decided it was done standing, and there was nothing he could do about it. He hit the floor hard, his palms scraping against the cold stone, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The Rasengan had taken more out of him than he'd realized. Or maybe it was the devil's presence, pressing down on his chakra, squeezing it like a wet rag until nothing was left. Naruto. Asta was at his side in an instant, hands on his shoulders, face pale with worry. Hey, stay with me. You're okay. You're okay. I'm fine, Naruto said, even though he wasn't. His head was spinning, and there was a ringing in his ears that wouldn't stop. Just, give me a minute. Yami appeared above him, his expression unreadable. He looked at Naruto, then at the spot where the crack had been, then back at Naruto. That devil knew you, he said. It called you chakra bearer. It said it could feel you. Naruto closed his eyes. Yeah. I heard. Why? What makes you so special? Naruto laughed a short, bitter sound. You want the long version or the short version? Yami lit a cigarette. We've got time. The scouts aren't going anywhere until Asta cuts them loose, and the villagers are still trapped in that pocket dimension. So give me the long version. Naruto opened his eyes and looked up at the captain. For a moment, he considered lying. Considered deflecting. Considered giving some vague answer that would satisfy Yami's curiosity without revealing too much. But lying had never been his strong suit. I have a demon inside me, he said. A fox. The Nine Tails. He's been with me since the day I was born, and he's got more power than I can ever fully use. That devil, the one we just fought, it sensed him. Or maybe it sensed the connection between us. I don't know. But it wants that power. It wants to use it to open the gate for good. The silence that followed was deafening. Asta was staring at him with an expression that was part shock, part recognition, part something else. A demon inside you, he repeated slowly. Like a devil? Not exactly, Naruto said. Kurama, that's his name, he's not evil. Not anymore. We fought for a long time, but eventually we came to understand each other. He's part of me now. And I'm part of him. Yami took a long drag from his cigarette. So you're telling me you've got a demon living in your gut, and you've made peace with it. And now some bigger, badder devil wants to eat it and use it to end the world. Pretty much. Yami exhaled smoke through his nose. Ha. That was all he said. Just ha. Like Naruto had told him the weather was going to be nice tomorrow, not that he was carrying around a world-ending catastrophe in his soul. Asta, on the other hand, had more to say. That's incredible, he breathed. You made peace with your demon? You talked to it? And now you work together? Naruto nodded. It wasn't easy. He hated me for a long time. Tried to take over my body, tried to make me lose control. But I never gave up on him. I refused to see him as just a monster. And eventually, he started to see me as more than just a prison. Asta's eyes were shining. That's what I want, he said quietly. That's what I've always wanted. To prove that even someone with no magic can stand beside the strongest mages. To show everyone that power isn't about what you're born with, it's about what you do with it. Naruto smiled. It was a tired smile, worn around the edges, but genuine. You're already doing that, Asta. You don't need a demon inside you to be strong. You've got something better. What's that? Guts. Asta laughed, a bright, clear sound that cut through the gloom of the chamber like a ray of sunlight. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I guess I do. It took them the rest of the day to free the scouts and locate the missing villagers. The pocket dimension where the figure, whose name, they'd learned from the scouts, was Valtor, had hidden the people of Durnhold was a nightmare of twisted space and broken time. Finding it was hard enough, navigating it was worse. But with Vanessa's fate magic guiding them and Asta's anti-magic cutting through the barriers, they managed to pull everyone out alive. 300 villagers, huddled together in a featureless grey void, their mana slowly being drained to fuel Valtor's ritual. They were weak, confused, and terrified, but they were alive. And that was what mattered. Noelle organized the evacuation, her commanding voice cutting through the chaos as she directed the villagers toward the relative safety of the border outpost. Charmy conjured food and water from her grimoire, her cotton magic could create anything she'd eaten before, and she'd eaten a lot, and Gordon silently helped the elderly and injured. Naruto watched it all from a distance, leaning against a crumbling wall, his arms crossed. His chakra was slowly returning, trickling back into his network like water seeping through cracked earth. But the fight with Valtor and the devil had taken more out of him than he wanted to admit. His hands were shaking. His vision kept blurring at the edges. You should rest. He looked up to see Noelle standing in front of him, her arms crossed, her expression a mixture of concern and irritation, her default state, apparently. I'm fine, he said. You're not fine. You can barely stand. I can stand. You're leaning on a wall. It's a comfortable wall. Noelle's eye twitched. You're impossible. So I've been told. Naruto pushed himself upright and immediately regretted it as his head swam and his knees buckled. Noelle caught him, her hands gripping his arms, her face suddenly very close to his. You were saying, she said dryly. Naruto sighed. Okay. Maybe I'm not 100%. Noelle helped him sit down on a nearby crate, then sat down next to him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The sounds of the evacuation filled the air, shouting, crying, the rumble of wagons and the clatter of hooves, but between them, there was only silence. That devil, Noelle said finally. It wanted you. Specifically you. Yeah. Why? Naruto considered how much to tell her. He'd already told Yami and Asta about Kurama. There was no reason to hide it from the rest of the squad. But old habits died hard, and he'd spent so many years keeping his secret that opening up still felt like pulling teeth. I have something inside me, he said. Something powerful. The devil wants it. What kind of something? A demon. A fox demon. His name is Kurama. Noelle's eyes widened. You're possessed? I prefer partnered, Naruto said. It took a while, but we're on the same side now. He doesn't control me, and I don't control him. We work together. Noelle was quiet for a moment, processing this. Then she said, in this world, devils are pure evil. They can't be reasoned with. They can't be befriended. They exist only to destroy and consume. Naruto nodded. That's what I'm learning. But Kurama isn't a devil. He's something else. Something from my world. And he's not evil. He's just complicated. Complicated, Noelle repeated. That's one word for it. They sat in silence again, watching the sun set over the ruined village. The sky was beautiful shades of gold and pink and deep purple, the twin suns dipping below the horizon like two lovers saying goodnight. Naruto found himself thinking about home, about the people he'd left behind, about the life he'd built and the future he'd fought for. I'm going to stop him, he said quietly. Valtor. The devil. Whatever it takes. I'm going to stop them. Noelle looked at him. Why? This isn't your world. You could leave. You could find a way back home and never think about any of this again. Naruto shook his head. That's not how I work. If there's a threat, I fight it. Doesn't matter which world I'm in. Doesn't matter who's in danger. I can't just walk away. Noelle's expression softened. Just a little. Just enough for Naruto to notice. You're strange, she said. But I think I understand. She stood up, brushed off her uniform, and offered him her hand. Come on. The captain wants to debrief before we head back. And you need to eat something. Charmy's been hoarding ingredients for a feast. Naruto took her hand and let her pull him to his feet. A feast sounds good. It sounds loud, Noelle corrected. And chaotic. And Magna and Luck will probably start a fight halfway through. Sounds like home. Noelle smiled a real smile, not the tight-lipped expression she usually wore. Yeah, she said. It does, doesn't it? The debriefing was held in the village hall of the border outpost, a cramped room with a single lantern and too many people crammed inside. Yami stood at the front, his sword leaning against the wall beside him, his cigarette burning low in the corner of his mouth. Around him, the surviving members of the scout team sat on benches, their faces pale, their eyes hollow. The Magic Knights are sending reinforcements, Yami said. 3 more squads, including the Golden Dawn. They'll be here by morning. Until then, we hold this position and keep the villagers safe. The Golden Dawn? Noelle's voice was sharp. Captain, that's. I know what it is. Yami's tone brooked no argument. We need every available mage if Valtor comes back. And he will come back. That devil wasn't just toying with us, it was testing us. Figuring out our strengths and weaknesses. Asta's hand tightened on his sword. Then we'll be ready for it. Will we? Yami's gaze swept over the group, lingering on Naruto. We barely survived that encounter. And that was with the devil only half through the gate. If it manages to fully cross over. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Naruto stepped forward. Captain, I need to train. Yami raised an eyebrow. Train? My chakra. It's been sluggish ever since I got here, the ambient mana is interfering with my flow. But I think I can adapt. I think I can learn to work with the mana instead of against it. If I can do that, I'll be stronger. Strong enough to fight that devil. Yami studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. You've got until the reinforcements arrive. After that, we're going on the offensive. We're going to find Valtor, shut down whatever ritual he's planning, and close that gate for good. And if we can't close it, someone asked. Yami's smile was thin and sharp. Then we make sure nothing comes through. The training ground was a stretch of rocky earth behind the outpost, lit by the faint glow of the twin moons. Naruto stood in the center, his eyes closed, his hands pressed together in front of his chest. Around him, the air was thick with mana, the natural energy of this world, pulsing and flowing like a living thing. He'd been at this for hours. The key, he'd realized, was to stop fighting the mana. Stop trying to push it away, stop trying to shield his chakra from its influence. Instead, he needed to accept it. To let it flow through him without disrupting his own energy. Easier said than done. His chakra was like a river, and the mana was like a second river running alongside it, sometimes parallel, sometimes intersecting. When they collided, there was turbulence, the sluggishness he'd been feeling, the resistance. But if he could find a way to let them flow together, to merge without losing their individual identities. He opened his eyes and held out his hand. Chakra gathered in his palm, blue and familiar. But this time, instead of forming a Rasengan, he let it spread outward, thin as a thread, reaching into the air around him. The mana responded, drawn to his chakra like iron filings to a magnet. It wrapped around the thread, not fighting it, not rejecting it, just observing. Yes, Naruto whispered. That's it. He pulled the mana into his chakra, carefully, slowly, like a surgeon performing a delicate operation. It resisted at first, he could feel it trying to pull away, trying to return to the ambient flow, but he didn't force it. He just held it gently, let it get used to his presence, let it understand that he wasn't a threat. And then, finally, it clicked. The mana merged with his chakra, not as a parasite or an invader, but as a partner. The two energies flowed together, separate but harmonious, like two musicians playing the same song. Naruto felt his chakra network surge with new power, not more power, but cleaner power. Smoother. More efficient. He smiled. Then he formed a shadow clone. The clone materialized beside him, solid and real, its chakra signature identical to his own. But there was something different about it, a faint shimmer of mana around its edges, a glow that hadn't been there before. The clone looked at him and grinned. We did it, the clone said. We did it, Naruto agreed. He dismissed the clone and reached deeper, past the surface of his chakra, into the reservoir where Kurama's power slept. The fox was still quiet, still distant, but Naruto could feel him stirring, a slow, massive awakening, like a volcano preparing to erupt. Not yet, Naruto thought. Soon. But not yet. He turned and walked back toward the outpost, his steps lighter than they'd been in weeks. The mana continued to flow around him, through him, accepting him as part of this world. He wasn't home. But he was getting closer. The feast was everything Noel had promised, loud, chaotic, and punctuated by at least 3 fights. Magna and Luck went at each other with spells and fists, their grimoires flashing in the firelight. Charmy tried to feed everyone at once, her cotton magic creating an endless stream of food that vanished as quickly as it appeared. Gordon whispered something to a spider in the corner. Vanessa drank wine straight from the bottle and told stories that made no sense. And Asta. Asta sat beside Naruto, his plate piled high with food, his eyes bright with excitement. You figured it out, he said. The mana thing. I could feel it from across the room. Naruto nodded, chewing on a piece of bread. It's not perfect yet. But it's a start. That's amazing. You're amazing. Asta said it with such sincerity, such unguarded admiration, that Naruto felt his cheeks warm. When we fight that devil again, you're going to be unstoppable. Nobody's unstoppable, Naruto said. But I'll be stronger. And that's what matters. Asta raised his cup water, because he didn't drink alcohol, which was probably smart given his size. To being stronger, he said. Naruto raised his own cup. To being stronger. They drank, and the feast continued around them, and for a little while, Naruto let himself forget about Valtor and the devil in the gate. For a little while, he just enjoyed the company of people who had accepted him without question, who had fought beside him without hesitation, who had made him feel like he belonged. It wasn't home. But it was something. And sometimes, something was enough. He's going to get himself killed. Noelle watched Naruto train from the window of the outpost's upper floor, her arms crossed, her brow furrowed. The blonde man was pushing himself harder than ever, harder than he had any right to, given how weak he'd been after the fight with Valtor. Shadow clones swarmed the training ground, each one practicing a different technique, each one moving with a speed and precision that should have been impossible for someone who'd been on the verge of collapse just hours ago. But that was the thing about Naruto Noel was learning. He didn't know how to stop. He didn't know how to rest. He just kept going, kept pushing, kept fighting, like the very concept of surrender was foreign to him. It was admirable. It was also terrifying. Because sooner or later, everyone broke. Everyone reached a limit they couldn't surpass. And when Naruto hit that limit, when his body finally gave out and his chakra ran dry, there might not be anyone there to catch him. "You're staring," Vanessa said, appearing at her shoulder with a glass of wine in hand. "I'm observing," Noel corrected. "Same thing." Vanessa took a sip of her wine and watched Naruto with lazy interest. "He's cute, isn't he? In that scrappy, underdog kind of way." Noel's face flushed. "I wasn't, that's not." Vanessa laughed. "Relax, princess. I'm just teasing." She paused, her expression softening. "But seriously. He's been through a lot. More than he lets on. You can see it in his eyes when he thinks no one's looking." Noel looked back at Naruto. Really looked. And for a moment, she saw what Vanessa was talking about, a flicker of something old and tired beneath the surface, something that had seen too much and lost too much and kept going anyway. "He reminds me of the captain," Noel said quietly. "In what way?" "He's too stubborn to die." Vanessa smiled. "Yeah," she said. "He is." The Golden Dawn arrived at dawn, just as Yami had predicted. They came in a procession of light and wind, their grimoires blazing with power, their robes pristine despite the long journey. At their head was a young man with golden hair and green eyes, his expression calm and composed, his posture perfect. William Vengeance, captain of the Golden Dawn, wore a mask that covered the upper half of his face, a mark of some curse, Noel knew, though she'd never learned the details. Beside him walked Yuno. Noel's breath caught. Yuno was the same age as Asta, they'd grown up together in the village of Hage, but they couldn't have been more different. Where Asta was short, loud, and impulsive, Yuno was tall, quiet, and deliberate. He moved like a predator, his eyes constantly scanning, his hand never far from the grimoire at his hip. He was a wind mage, one of the most powerful in the kingdom, and he carried himself with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. But there was something else in his eyes today. Something sharp. Something focused. And it was aimed directly at Naruto. "So," Yuno said, walking up to the blonde man who was still catching his breath from his morning training, "you're the one with no mana." Naruto straightened up, his blue eyes meeting Yuno's green ones. "That's right. The captain told me about you. About your fight with Valtor. About the devil." Yuno's gaze was unblinking. "He also told me you have a demon inside you." The air grew tense. Noel saw Asta move closer, his hand on his sword, his jaw set. But Naruto just nodded calmly, like Yuno had commented on the weather. "His name is Kurama," Naruto said. "And he's not a demon. He's a tailed beast. Different thing." "Is it?" Yuno's voice was flat. "In this world, devils are creatures of pure evil. They cannot be trusted. They cannot be reasoned with. And anyone who makes a contract with one is a threat to everyone around them." "I didn't make a contract," Naruto said. "Kurama was sealed inside me when I was born. I didn't have a choice. And I didn't befriend him because I wanted power, I befriended him because he was alone. Because he'd been used and hated and feared for centuries, and he deserved better." Yuno was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Asta told me you were different. I wanted to see for myself." Naruto raised an eyebrow. And you're not what I expected." Yuno's lips twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. "You're interesting. I'll give you that." He turned and walked away, joining the rest of the Golden Dawn as they set up their camp. Asta let out a breath he'd been holding and shook his head. "That's Yuno for you. He's not good with people." "He seemed fine to me," Naruto said. "He liked you," Asta clarified. "That's his version of fine." Naruto laughed. "I've had worse introductions." Noel watched them, Naruto and Asta, the chakra user and the anti-mage, the two boys who shouldn't exist in this world but somehow did. They were both outsiders, both anomalies, both proof that power came in forms no one expected. And for some reason, that gave her hope. The strategy meeting was held in the largest building in the outpost, a converted warehouse that smelled of old grain and newer desperation. Maps were spread across a long wooden table, marked with symbols that represented known devil activity, mana fluctuations, and the location of Volter's last known position. Yami stood at one end of the table, William at the other. Between them, the captains of the other two squads, a woman named Charlotte Roselay, captain of the Blue Rose, and a scarred man named Jack the Ripper, captain of the Green Mantis, studied the maps with expressions ranging from concern to barely concealed excitement. The gate is here, William said, pointing to a spot deep in the Forsaken Realm, near the border of the Spade Kingdom. Our scouts have confirmed it, a tear in reality, sustained by a massive mana-draining ritual. Valtor is using the villagers he captured as fuel, drawing on their life force to keep the gate open. How many villagers? Charlotte asked. At least 500. Possibly more. The room went quiet. 500 people, being drained of their mana, their life force, their very souls. Noelle felt her stomach turn. We need to move fast, Yami said. Every day we wait, the gate gets wider. And every day it gets wider, more devils can slip through. What's the plan? Jack asked. His voice was rough, impatient. He was a man who preferred action to talk. William spread his hands over the map. We split into 3 teams. Team 1, led by myself and Captain Yami, will assault the gate directly. Our goal is to disrupt the ritual and seal the tear. Team 2, led by Captain Roselay, will locate and rescue the villagers. Team 3, led by Captain Jack, will serve as a rapid response force anywhere there's trouble, they go. What about Valtor? Asta asked. William's eyes narrowed. Valtor is mine. He was once a member of the Golden Dawn. His betrayal is my responsibility. Naruto stepped forward. With respect, Captain, Valtor is connected to the devil that's trying to break through. And that devil is connected to me. I should be on the assault team. William studied him. You're not a magic knight. You're not even a mage. You have no grimoire, no rank, no official standing. Naruto met his gaze without flinching. I have chakra. I have shadow clones. I have a Rasengan that can level a building. And I have a demon inside me that's fought things scarier than anything in this world. If you want to close that gate, you need me. The silence stretched. Noelle held her breath. Then Yami spoke. He's right. William turned to look at him. Yami. He's right, Yami repeated. I've seen him fight. I've seen what he can do. And I've seen the devil's reaction when it sensed him. Whatever's on the other side of that gate, it wants Naruto. If we want to draw it out, we need him as bait. Bait? Naruto's voice was sharp. You prefer strategic asset? Yami's grin was sharp and dangerous. Look, kid, I'm not going to lie to you. That devil is going to come for you. It's going to try to take Kurama's power and use it to tear the gate wide open. But that also means it's predictable. It'll focus on you, which gives the rest of us an opening to seal the gate. Naruto was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Fine. I'll be your bait. But when the devil comes, I'm not running. I'm fighting. Wouldn't expect anything else. William sighed. This is reckless. It's the only plan we have, Yami said. Unless you've got something better? William didn't answer. He just looked at Naruto, really looked, like he was trying to see past the surface, into the core of who this stranger was. Finally, he nodded. Very well. Naruto Uzumaki, you'll join the assault team. But if things go wrong, if the devil gets the upper hand, you fall back. Understood? Naruto's jaw tightened. Understood. Noelle watched him, saw the lie in his eyes. He had no intention of falling back. He had no intention of running. When the devil came, Naruto Uzumaki would stand his ground, no matter the cost. She just hoped it wouldn't cost him everything. The night before the assault, Naruto couldn't sleep. He lay in his bed in the crowded barracks, listening to the sounds of the other soldiers breathing and shifting in their sleep. Asta was in the bunk above him, snoring softly. Luck was across the room, twitching and muttering about fights. Charmy had curled up in a corner with a block of cheese clutched to her chest. Naruto closed his eyes and reached inward. Kurama. Silence. I know you can hear me. The devil we're going to fight, it's strong. Stronger than anything I've faced since the war. I need you. Still silence. But this time, Naruto felt something different. A flicker of warmth, deep in his core. A pulse of chakra that wasn't his own. I'm not asking you to take over. I'm not asking you to fight my battles for me. I'm just asking you to be there. To have my back. Like you always have. The warmth grew stronger. And then, finally, a voice, faint, distant, like an echo from the bottom of a well. Careful, Kit. Naruto's eyes flew open. Kurama? The devil, it's not like anything I've sensed before. It's old. Hungry. And it knows about me. About us. It wants to consume my chakra and use it to tear a hole between worlds. Can you stop it? A pause. Then, together. We can stop it together. Naruto smiled in the darkness. That's all I needed to hear. He closed his eyes again, and this time, sleep came easily. Tomorrow, they would march to the gate. Tomorrow, they would face Valtor and the devil and whatever else awaited them. Tomorrow, they would fight for the fate of two worlds. But tonight, Naruto rested. And in the depths of his soul, a nine-tailed fox opened one eye and watched. He leaped higher than any normal person should have been able to leap and landed on a chunk of flying debris, using it as a springboard to launch himself toward the nearest enemy. The creature was one of Voltor's summons, a twisted thing of shadow and bone that moved like a spider and screamed like a dying child. Naruto hit it with a Rasengan to the face, and the thing dissolved into black mist, its dying shriek echoing across the battlefield. There's too many of them! Asta shouted from somewhere to his left. The smaller boy was wading through a sea of shadow creatures, his anti-magic sword carving through them like a scythe through wheat. But for every one he killed, two more appeared, crawling up from the earth, dropping from the sky, oozing from the cracks in reality. They'd been fighting for hours. The march to the gate had started at dawn, 300 magic knights moving in formation across the barren wasteland of the Forsaken Realm. They'd made good time at first, the terrain was rough but manageable, and the scouts had reported no signs of enemy activity. But then they'd crossed the ridge, and the gate had come into view, and everything had gone wrong. The gate was a wound in the sky. That was the only way Naruto could describe it. A massive tear in the fabric of reality, easily a mile wide, leaking purple light and darkness and noise, a constant, grinding sound like the world itself was screaming. Around the gate, the land had been corrupted, turned into a nightmare landscape of twisted rock and pulsing veins of dark energy. And from the gate, the creatures were pouring. Not devils, not yet. These were lesser things, the spawn of the corrupted mana that leaked from the tear. They had no intelligence, no purpose, no motivation beyond killing and consuming. But there were so many of them, and they kept coming, wave after wave, endless and relentless. We need to push through. Yami's voice cut through the chaos. The captain was fighting with his usual brutal efficiency, his sword carving arcs of darkness that swallowed the creature's whole. The gate's getting wider. If we don't seal it soon. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Naruto formed a dozen shadow clones and sent them charging into the nearest wave of creatures. The clones fought with reckless abandon, sacrificing themselves to clear a path, their chakra exploding outward in bursts of blue light. It was wasteful, each clone cost him precious energy, but they needed to move, and they needed to move now. Asta! With me! Naruto shouted. Asta was at his side in an instant, his sword gleaming black, his eyes blazing. Where? The gate. We're going straight for it. That's suicide. Probably. Naruto grinned, a wild, reckless grin that felt more like a snarl. You in? Asta grinned back. Always. They ran. The creatures converged on them like sharks sensing blood in the water. Shadow things lunged from every direction, their claws extended, their mouths open wide. Naruto didn't slow down. He couldn't. He just kept running, his hands forming seals, his chakras surging. Wind style, Raisin Shuriken. The massive shuriken of spinning wind chakra tore through the crowd of creatures, shredding them into nothing. The attack was overkill, way overkill, but Naruto didn't care. He needed a clear path, and he needed it now. Asta followed in his wake, his anti-magic sword cutting down anything that survived the initial blast. Together, they carved a bloody corridor through the horde, moving faster than should have been possible, driven by something beyond logic or reason. They reached the base of the gate. Up close, the tear was even more horrifying. It pulsed like a heartbeat, sending waves of dark energy crashing over them. Naruto felt his chakra stutter and twist, felt Kurama's presence flicker in the depths of his soul. The devil was close. He could feel it watching him from the other side. Naruto! Asta pointed. Valtor stood at the center of the gate's base, surrounded by a circle of floating grimoires. His eyes were closed, his hands raised, his mouth moving in a silent chant. The purple light that had marked his magic was brighter than ever, almost blinding, and his skin had taken on a sickly gray pallor. He's using the villagers' mana to power the ritual, Asta said. If we can break the circle. The grimoires, Naruto finished. They're the anchors. Destroy them, and the ritual collapses. Asta nodded. I'll take the left. You take the right. On 3? On 3. They counted together. 1, 2, 3. They moved. Naruto hit the first grimoire with a Rasengan, shattering it into pieces. The second fell to a Shadow Clone's kick. The third exploded when Naruto channeled a burst of Kurama's chakra through his fist. Each destroyed grimoire sent a shockwave through the ritual circle, making the purple light flicker and dim. Asta was doing the same on his side, his anti-magic sword cutting through the grimoires like they were made of paper. The circle was breaking. The gate was shrinking. They were winning. Then Valtor opened his eyes. "You," he said, and his voice was no longer human. It was layered, doubled, like two people speaking at once, one of them the man he'd been, the other something much older and much darker. "I was wondering when you'd come." Naruto didn't hesitate. He charged, a Rasengan already forming in his palm. "Let the villagers go, Valtor. This doesn't have to end in violence." Valtor laughed. "Oh, but it does. It always does." He raised his hand, and the purple light exploded outward, slamming into Naruto's chest and sending him flying. He hit the ground hard, his head cracking against the stone, his vision swimming. Asta was there a moment later, standing over him, his sword raised to block Valtor's next attack. "You're too weak," Valtor said, walking toward them. "Both of you. You think your anti-magic can stop me? You think your chakra can match the power of a devil?" He laughed again, and this time, the sound was pure madness. "I've spent years preparing for this. Years gathering power, studying forbidden magic, making deals with things that should never have been awakened. And now, finally, I have everything I need." He looked at Naruto. "Including you." The ground shook. The gate pulsed. And from the tear in the sky, something began to emerge. Not a hand this time. A face. The devil's face was massive, larger than any building Naruto had ever seen, and it was beautiful in the way that storms were beautiful, in the way that wildfires were beautiful. It had too many eyes, too many teeth, too many angles that shouldn't have existed. And when it spoke, its voice was the sound of reality coming apart at the seams. "Chakra bearer." Naruto felt Kurama stir. Not with fear, with rage. The fox had been waiting for this, had been anticipating this confrontation since the moment they'd arrived in this world. "I know what you carry. I know what sleeps within you. Give it to me, and I will let your new friends live." Naruto pushed himself to his feet. His body was screaming, his chakra was depleted, and every instinct he had was telling him to run. But he didn't run. He never ran. "No," he said. The devil's eyes narrowed. "No?" "You heard me." Naruto's voice was steady, despite everything. "I don't make deals with monsters. I don't give up on my friends. And I don't let anyone tell me what to do." He reached deep inside himself, past the exhaustion, past the pain, past the fear. He reached for the reservoir of chakra that had been with him since birth, the power that had saved his life 100 times over. "You are a fool," the devil said. "You cannot defeat me. You cannot even hurt me. Your chakra is nothing compared to my power." "Maybe," Naruto said. "But I'm not alone." He looked at Asta. At Yami, who was fighting his way toward them through the horde. At Noelle, who was using her water magic to shield the other soldiers. At all the magic knights who had come to fight, to protect, to close the gate. "I've got friends," Naruto said. "And my friends are the strongest people I know." The devil laughed, a sound like mountains crumbling. "Then let them watch you die." It lunged. And Naruto met it head-on. The next few minutes were a blur of motion and pain. Naruto fought like he'd never fought before, drawing on every technique he'd ever learned, every lesson he'd ever been taught. Shadow clones swarmed the devil's face, attacking from every angle. Rasengans exploded against its skin, leaving burns that healed almost instantly. He even tried Sage Mode, drawing in the natural energy of the world, but the corrupted mana made it impossible to maintain, and he dropped out of it after only a few seconds. But he kept fighting. Asta fought beside him, his anti-magic sword carving deep wounds in the devil's flesh. The wounds didn't heal. Anti-magic was one of the few things that could hurt the devil, but they were shallow, barely more than scratches on something so massive. Yami joined them, his dark magic cutting through the devil's defenses, creating openings that Asta and Naruto exploited. Noelle provided cover, her water spells forming barriers that deflected the devil's counterattacks. Even Luck and Magna got in a few hits, their elemental magic adding to the chaos. But it wasn't enough. The devil was too strong. Too big. Too ancient. Every wound they inflicted was healed within seconds. Every attack they launched was shrugged off like nothing. And all the while, the gate was growing wider, more devils beginning to push through, their lesser forms adding to the horde that the magic knights were struggling to contain. "We can't keep this up," Asta shouted, his voice raw. "We need to seal the gate." "Then seal it," Yami yelled back. "Naruto, can you do something about that thing's connection to the gate?" Naruto's mind raced. The devil was tied to the gate, he could feel it, an umbilical cord of dark energy connecting the creature to the tear in reality. If he could cut that connection, even for a moment, the gate might close on its own. But how? He thought about his chakra. About the way he'd learned to merge it with the ambient mana. About the Rasengan, and how it worked by compressing chakra into a spinning sphere of pure force. And he had an idea. A crazy idea. A stupid idea. The kind of idea that would probably get him killed. But it was the only idea he had. Asta, he shouted. I need you to trust me. Always. Then hit me. Asta's eyes went wide. What? Hit me with your sword. Channel your anti-magic into my chakra. You'll die. I'll live. Naruto hoped. Just do it. Asta hesitated for only a second. Then he swung. The anti-magic blade slammed into Naruto's side, not cutting, but pushing, channeling its nullifying energy into Naruto's chakra network. The effect was instantaneous and agonizing. Naruto felt his chakra being torn apart, felt Kurama's presence flicker and fade, felt something fundamental about his very existence begin to unravel. But he didn't stop. He grabbed the anti-magic energy, grabbed it, with his will, with his soul, and forced it into his chakra. The two energies fought, screamed, tried to destroy each other. But Naruto held them together, held them both, refusing to let go. And then, somehow, impossibly, they merged. A new energy bloomed inside him. Not chakra. Not anti-magic. Something else. Something that felt like the space between spaces, the moment between moments, the breath between life and death. He looked at the devil. At the gate. At the umbilical cord of dark energy connecting them. And he cut.